I watched through the baby monitor as my wife walked into my sick mother's room and said, "You're just a burden now. Stop crying and hurry up already." I was behind the door, frozen. My mother tried to smile through the pain. A week later, she sent me a birthday card with a note saying, "Don't let her win. Protect yourself." My hands shook reading it. My name is Alan. I'm 47, and I live just outside of Asheville, North Carolina, in a modest two-story house that used to feel a lot bigger before life took a turn. My wife, Morel, and I have been married for nearly 12 years. We met in Knoxville, Tennessee, when I was a regional manager for a manufacturing equipment supplier, and she was working as a health insurance adjuster. We were both divorced, both a little gun-shy. But something about her confidence, her sharp way of speaking, it cut through the hesitation. She made me feel seen, even when I didn't want to be. We didn't have children, though we talked about it. At some point, it just didn't happen. Life got busy. My work kept me traveling, and hers was always draining. But we built a good life, or so I thought. My mother, Doris, moved in with us about 8 months ago. She was diagnosed with late-stage Parkinson's, and I didn't want to put her in a home. She raised me alone after my dad took off when I was 6. I owed her everything. Morel wasn't thrilled, but she said she understood. Said it was the right thing to do. We set my mom up in the downstairs guest room. I installed a baby monitor, not to spy, just for peace of mind in case she needed anything at night. It gave me comfort. I think it gave her some too. Then last week, everything changed. This is probably going to be long, and I'm sorry for that. I just need to tell someone. Maybe writing it out will help me understand how I got here. Because right now, I feel like I'm living someone else's life. My name is Alan. I'm 47 years old, and I live in Asheville, North Carolina. I've been married to Morel for almost 12 years. No kids, unless you count my old dog Baxter who passed a couple years ago and left a bigger hole in my heart than I expected. Morel and I met when I was doing a conference presentation in Knoxville, back when I used to travel for work a lot. I was recently divorced. My first marriage was short and honestly shouldn't have happened. Morel was smart, confident, and had this nonsense way of carrying herself. She didn't try to impress anyone. She said exactly what she meant. At the time, that felt refreshing. Necessary even. I'd grown up with a mom who wore herself thin trying to keep everyone happy. Morel? She was the opposite of that. She wasn't going to bend for anyone. We dated for a couple of years, did the whole long-distance thing for a bit. Eventually I moved, we got married, bought a house in Asheville together. I still travel for work, but less than I used to. I'm a field director for a logistics company, basically adult babysitting with an expense account. Morel's in health insurance administration. High-stress job, long hours, lots of phone calls and spreadsheets. Anyway, here's where things started to go wrong. Or maybe where I finally started seeing what I didn't want to see. 8 months ago, my mom, Doris, was diagnosed with advanced Parkinson's. She's 78. I'm her only child, and my dad's been out of the picture since I was 6. She never remarried. She worked 2 jobs when I was growing up just to keep the lights on. We were never close in the emotional talk about feelings kind of way, but she was always there. She showed up. She did the hard stuff. I owe her everything. So when her symptoms started getting worse and she couldn't manage stairs anymore, I offered to move her in. We had a guest room on the first floor and enough space to make it work. Morel was quiet when I brought it up. Said she understood, but the energy shifted after that. She should really be in a care facility, she said one night over dinner. They're equipped for this kind of thing. She doesn't want that, I replied. She's still lucid. She just needs help with mobility and meals. We can do this. We? She said, raising an eyebrow. You're gone 4 days a week, Al. I'll hire help if it gets to be too much, I told her. But this is important to me. She nodded, but she didn't look convinced. At first, things were manageable. I got a baby monitor, not because I didn't trust anyone, but just for peace of mind. It let me check in while I was working or out of the house. My mom was weak, but stable. We had a nurse coming twice a week. I handled her meals when I was home. Morel said she was doing her part, but mostly that meant heating up frozen dinners and leaving them outside mom's door. There were little things. Morel would roll her eyes when I asked her to sit with mom for half an hour while I ran errands. She'd come back from work and sigh dramatically when the house smelled like soup. Once, I caught her whispering under her breath, "This place is turning into a damn hospice." I started spending more and more time downstairs with mom. I brought my laptop down to work from the kitchen table. We'd talk a bit, watch old movies. She was getting thinner, shakier, but still, she smiled. Still asked about my day. Always asked about Morel. Is she doing okay with me here? She'd ask, and I'd lie and say, yeah, she's fine. She's just tired. Work's been tough. Then last Thursday night happened. I got home later than usual. A storm had rolled in, and traffic on I-40 was a nightmare. Morel wasn't in the living room when I walked in. I put my bag down and called out, "I'm home." No response. Something felt off. I noticed the baby monitor screen on the counter. I picked it up, mostly out of habit. The feed showed my mom's room. The lights were dim, but you could see everything clearly. Morel was in there. I watched her lean in close to my mother's bed. Her voice was low but sharp, like a blade being dragged across a table. You're just a burden now. Stop crying and hurry up already. I swear I stopped breathing. My mother flinched but didn't say anything. She tried to smile, her mouth trembling. I dropped the monitor. I was already halfway down the hall, but I didn't barge in. I don't know why. I stood just outside the door. Morel didn't see me. She stood there a second longer, then turned and walked past me without a word. She didn't even look at me. When I walked in, my mom looked at me like she was trying to pretend nothing had happened. Her voice was shaky. She's just tired. Don't blame her. Mom, what the heck did she say to you? She just smiled that same brittle smile and whispered. She didn't mean it. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't confront Morel either. I needed to. I don't know. Be sure? Understand it better? So the next morning, I left the monitor on recording mode. I watched every interaction they had that week. Morel barely spoke to her. When she did, it was cold. Blunt. Like Mom was a stray dog in the hallway, not a human being. Then, a week later, it was my birthday. Morel gave me a pair of Bluetooth earbuds, said, "Happy birthday," then walked out to take a call. But my mom had left me something too. It was a card with a painting of a river on it. Inside was a handwritten note. It said, "Don't let her win. Protect yourself. Love, Mom." My hands were shaking. I looked up at her room. She was asleep, or pretending to be. And now, I don't know what to do. I've been with this woman for over a decade. I thought I knew her. I thought she loved me. I thought she had a heart. But I'm starting to realize she doesn't see my mother as a person. Maybe she doesn't see me that way either. What would you do? That night, after reading the note in the birthday card, I just sat there for maybe an hour, staring at the walls of my office. I held the card in my hand like it was some kind of lifeline, but I had no idea what to do with it. I kept reading the same sentence over and over. Don't let her win. Protect yourself. What did that mean? What had Morel said to her that I didn't catch? Was it just that one awful comment, or had there been more? The worst part was knowing I hadn't protected her when I could have. Around 11 p.m., I finally went to bed. Morel was already under the covers, scrolling through her phone like nothing was wrong. I lay down next to her, completely silent. After a minute, she glanced at me. You're quiet. Long day, I muttered. She nodded. You get the new contract signed? Yeah, I said, turning away. I stared at the ceiling until long after she fell asleep. My mind kept flipping through the last few months like a slideshow. I couldn't stop. Little things. Comments. Eye rolls. Doors closed just a bit too hard. I'd explained them all away. I'd assumed she was tired, stressed, burnt out. But now it felt like willful blindness. The next morning, I got up early and made my mom's breakfast. Scrambled eggs and toast, cut into little squares because her hands shook too much to use a blade. I brought it in with her coffee just the way she liked it. 1 sugar, half milk. She looked at me, surprised. You're not working today? I canceled my meetings. She hesitated. Is everything okay? I sat down next to her bed, watched her fidget with the blanket. I got your card, I said softly. Her eyes went wide for a second. Then she looked away. I meant what I wrote, she whispered. But I wish I didn't have to write it. Mom, I said carefully. Has she said anything else to you? When I'm not around. There was a long pause. She chewed at her bottom lip. It doesn't matter, she finally said. She's just not a caretaker. That's not her nature. That's not an excuse. She gave me this look, gentle but exhausted. Al, I've lived long enough to know who people really are. Sometimes, the person you marry and the person they are in hard times, they're not the same. Don't let this destroy you. I swallowed hard. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I didn't want to be the reason your marriage fell apart. I stood up, pacing the room. My hands were in fists without realizing. You're not. This is on her. This is me finally seeing it. I didn't even hear Morel come to the doorway until she spoke. Wow, she said. Having a little strategy meeting without me? I turned to her. Her arms were crossed. That same blank expression she always wore when she wanted to seem calm, but was pissed beneath it. I need to talk to you, I said. Clearly, she said, glancing at the tray of food. Let me guess, she's the victim now? My mom's hands curled around the blanket. Don't, I said sharply. Don't talk to her like that. Ever again. Morel blinked, then looked at me like I'd just smacked her. Oh, she said. So this is happening now. What? Did she cry about how mean I was? You realize you've been gone for most of the week, right? And you think that gives you permission to treat her like garbage? She stepped into the room. I've been holding this house together while you run around the state with your job and pretend you're a saintly son. She needs full-time care, Alan. We are not equipped for this. I told you that from the beginning. You didn't tell me you hated her. I snapped. You didn't tell me you were cruel to her when I wasn't looking. My mom started crying then, quietly, like she was trying not to be a part of it. I moved toward her and gently took her hand. Morel rolled her eyes. Of course. Right. She's the fragile little flower, and I'm the villain. You are the villain here, I said, louder than I meant to. You knew how important this was to me. You agreed to this. And then you treated her like she was some kind of parasite. Her eyes narrowed. You think you're so righteous. You have no idea what this has done to my life. My schedule. My sanity. She's not my mother. She's not my problem. She's my family, I said. Which means she is your problem. Or at least she should have been. She laughed, short and bitter. I can't do this anymore. If you want to play nurse and live in this depressing little death trap, go ahead. But I'm not wasting another second pretending. I didn't say anything. She stared at me like she was waiting for a fight. When I didn't bite, she scoffed and walked out. I didn't follow her. The next few days were tense. She barely spoke to me. I slept in the downstairs den. She left early, came home late. I kept checking the monitor obsessively any time I left my mom alone in the house, even if it was just for 10 minutes. I didn't see anything new, but the damage was done. Trust doesn't get patched up that easily. On Saturday, I found her sitting at the dining room table going through her planner. She looked up like I was an inconvenience. We need to talk, I said. Fine, she said flatly. I sat down across from her. I don't think this is working anymore. Her jaw tightened. So you're choosing her? I didn't even answer that. I'm choosing me, I said. I'm choosing not to stay married to someone who has no compassion, who can't treat the woman who raised me with basic decency. She looked away for a second, then back at me. I gave you everything I had, Alan. No, you gave me what was convenient for you, I replied. And the second it got hard, you turned cold. We sat there in silence for a while. Then she asked, voice quieter than I expected, are you really ending this? I don't see how we come back from this, I said. Do you? She didn't answer. After that conversation at the table, Morel got up without another word. She walked upstairs, shut the bedroom door, and didn't come back down the rest of the night. I sat there for a long time, just sitting, staring at nothing. The clock ticked loudly in the kitchen. The fridge made that weird humming sound it always does right before the ice drops, and I flinched when it did. I hadn't realized how quiet the house had become lately. My phone buzzed with a text. It was from my cousin Drew, just checking in. I didn't respond. Instead, I walked back down the hallway to my mom's room. She was awake, her reading lamp casting a soft glow over her face. She looked up from the photo album in her lap, one I hadn't seen in years. I thought you'd gone to bed, she said. I should have, I replied, sitting beside her again. She patted the edge of the bed. Come here. I scooted closer. She placed the photo album between us and flipped to a page from my high school graduation. Me in an oversized cap, her in a too big denim jacket, both of us squinting in the sun. You were so proud that day, she said, smiling. You were the one who should have been proud. You worked 2 jobs to get me there. Her eyes softened. That's what moms do. I swallowed. I'm sorry I didn't see how bad things had gotten between you and Morel. She sighed and closed the album. You saw what you needed to see to survive. That's what we all do. I should have protected you. You're protecting me now. We didn't talk much after that. Just sat together until she got tired. I helped her lie back, tucked the blanket around her, and turned off the lamp. In the hallway, I passed by the guest bathroom and caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. I looked tired. Older. Like I'd aged 5 years in the past few months. My shoulders were slumped, my jaw tight. I looked like a man barely holding it together. Sunday morning came, and I woke up to the sound of the front door opening and closing. Morel was gone. No note. No message. Just gone. I fed Mom, got her settled, and then spent the rest of the day organizing some of her medical paperwork. When Morel finally came home after dark, she had a small overnight bag in her hand. She dropped it at the bottom of the stairs. I'm going to stay at Jenna's for a few days. I just nodded. Okay. That's it. What do you want me to say? She didn't answer. Just stood there for a moment, then walked back out and left. The next 3 days were calm, in that eerie, waiting for the other shoe to drop kind of way. Mom and I settled into a routine. I took time off work. I found a part-time homemade agency and scheduled interviews. I cooked. We talked more than we had in years. One night, while I was refilling her water, she said, you always thought she was stronger than she really is. I paused. What do you mean? She talks loud, carries herself like she owns the room. But underneath, she's scared. That kind of person, when they feel like they're losing control, they lash out. They break things. She broke this. She nodded. She did. The interviews with the care workers went well. I met with 3 different women, all local, all experienced. One of them, Carmen, stood out. She was patient, warm, had a good sense of humor. Mom liked her. I scheduled her for a trial week starting the following Monday. When I told Morel, she didn't seem relieved. She seemed annoyed. Oh, now you want help. After making me look like the villain for suggesting a care facility? I wanted help a long time ago, I said. I just didn't realize I needed help protecting Mom from you. You keep saying things like that, she snapped, like I hit her or something. You didn't need to lay a hand on her, I said. You broke her down every day with how you treated her. You humiliated her. She looked at me, and for the first time, I think she actually realized I wasn't just venting. I was done. You're really not coming back from this, are you? I shook my head. I can't. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just walked upstairs. The next day, she packed a few more things and left without saying goodbye. The next week was surreal. I told my boss I needed extended time off. They were surprisingly supportive. I took over all of Mom's care in the mornings, and Carmen came in the afternoons. Morel didn't come back. I didn't reach out. Friends started asking questions. Where's Morel been? You two okay? She posted something about starting over on Facebook. Everything all right? I kept it vague. We're figuring things out. Taking a break. Family stuff. But inside, I was already beginning to mourn a marriage I knew had quietly died months ago. Maybe even years. One night, I found myself in the garage, going through an old storage bin. Wedding photos, our honeymoon scrapbook, anniversary cards. I sat on the cold concrete floor flipping through them like a stranger looking at someone else's life. And then I found this old card she gave me back when we were still dating. It said, "You make me feel safe in a world I don't understand." I stared at those words for a long time. Had I ever felt that way about her? Had she felt that way, truly? Or had we both clung to something that looked like love because we didn't want to be alone? Mom's health was up and down that week. Some days, she was sharp and lively. Other days, it was hard for her to even hold a spoon. But she smiled more now. Laughed. She told me stories I'd never heard. About her first boyfriend, her first job at a diner in Silva, the time she tried pot in 1973 and swore she saw God in the wallpaper. We were healing in our own strange, quiet way. I didn't realize how much I'd missed her. About 2 weeks after Morel left, I got a certified letter in the mail. It was from her lawyer. A formal notice of intent to pursue separation. No apology. No real explanation. Just legal jargon and an itemized list of property she wanted. Her car, the bedroom furniture, a few investments we shared, and, oddly, the espresso machine. I sat at the kitchen table reading it, letting the silence settle around me. Mom was napping in the next room. Carmen had just left. Outside, the wind chimes were catching the breeze. It wasn't the letter that pissed me off, it was the audacity. The fact that she was trying to sweep this under a rug like it had been some mutual, reasonable decision. Like I hadn't watched her break a fragile woman down, piece by piece. So I called my own lawyer. Her name was Denise, a straight shooter I'd known since my early corporate years. We met at her office a couple days later. "Do you want to fight this?" she asked after reading the letter. "I want it fair," I said. "But I want the truth to be part of the conversation. I'm done pretending." She nodded. "Then we'll handle it the right way." Over the next few weeks, Denise went to work. We combed through financial records, drafted a formal response, and began the process. I didn't want to take her for everything. I just wanted the record to reflect reality. I also requested the house, not out of spite, but because it had become my mother's safe place, and I wasn't going to uproot her again just to give it to someone who walked away without a backward glance. What really tilted the scales, though, was the footage. I hadn't planned on using it. I'd only saved it to remind myself I hadn't imagined things. But when Denise asked if there was any documentation of how Morel treated my mom, I hesitated, then brought her the USB drive. She watched the clips silently. Morel's voice clear and cold through the monitor. Her dismissive tone. Her refusal to help. That awful comment. "You're just a burden now. Stop crying and hurry up already." Denise looked up when it ended. "This changes everything." Morel tried to act surprised when the documentation was presented during mediation. "What is this?" she said, trying to keep her voice neutral. "My legal response," I replied calmly. Her lawyer whispered something to her. She looked at me like I'd just betrayed her. "I can't believe you recorded me." I didn't. I installed a monitor to care for my mom. "You just forgot it was on." She didn't say anything. Just sat there, red rising in her cheeks. Denise leaned forward. "You'll find the proposal generous. He's not asking for anything that wasn't shared, but we'll also be including an affidavit from the home care nurse and possibly pursuing emotional distress damages on behalf of his mother if this continues." Morel's lawyer raised an eyebrow, clearly caught off guard. "We'll review." Morel looked like she wanted to scream. 3 weeks later, the final agreement came through. I kept the house. She got her car, her espresso machine, and the bedroom furniture she was so attached to. She also walked away with a fraction of the joint savings she'd initially demanded. No emotional damages pursued. No public court battle. But everything was documented and signed. It was clean, final, and honest. The revenge wasn't in taking anything from her. It was in showing her I wasn't going to roll over and pretend everything was okay. It was in standing up for my mother, for myself, for the man I had been too tired or afraid to be for a long time. When the papers were signed, Morel didn't look at me. She just said, "I guess you finally got your way." I replied, "No, I finally stopped giving you yours." She left without another word. It's been 6 months now. Mom is still with me. Her health is fragile, but her spirit is strong. Carmen's become like family. Some evenings, we all sit together in the living room, playing quiet jazz on the record player while Mom watches the wind through the window like it's a movie. I still work part-time, mostly remote now. I turned the guest room into a small office and finally started reading some of the books I kept saying I'd get to. I started going to therapy too. At first, just to make sense of everything. But it's helped me process more than I expected, not just the marriage, but the version of myself I left behind trying to keep it alive. I ran into Morel once at the grocery store. She was with a coworker, laughing, holding a bottle of wine. She saw me, froze for a second, then smiled like nothing had happened. I didn't smile back, not out of anger, just closure. Some stories end quietly. No explosions, no screaming, just the truth, finally spoken, and peace, finally earned. So if you're reading this and wondering if standing up for yourself is worth the fallout, it is. Every single time.